cases to court and prosecuting them in court, and also rescuing these children and placing them in a safe place, and also pursuing these parents, and also even educating these parents the importance of taking their children to school instead of using them for cheap labor. So what I can say is that as a government, we have put some laws on employment. There is a limit of a child to be employed, and we don't allow children under the age to be employed. There is an Employment Act of 2007. It has clear guidelines on which child should be allowed to work on light jobs. So we have children between the age of 13 and 16. They are allowed to work on light jobs, but not to be taken away from school to go and work. They can work on their extra time, light jobs, but not those jobs which can make them not to continue with their education. So if you can go through that act, you'll get a clear picture on which child is supposed to be employed. But we are saying in our country, Kenya, children are supposed to be in school. If you are capable of taking care of your child while in school, take care of your child while in school. Do not expose these children into employment. Because of COVID, some people have opted to release their children to do light jobs. We cannot say it's right, but because the circumstances are pushing them, let them not use these children in a bad way. There is a bad way you can use these children. When I'm saying a bad way, I mean you are drawing these children from school. Instead of them going to school, you are exposing them into labor. So when you do that, you are abusing this child. You are abusing the child. So we are saying that it's good for us as parents to do the best to maintain these children in school. We can work as hard as we can so that we can allow the children to be in school. That is all I have to say.
No, thank you so much, Margaret. It's not all, it's a lot. And you have actually given quite interesting, insights, or even what, as a government, you're doing. And there's a call for, you cannot do it everything by yourself, but also together with partners. And so I'm happy that we have partners here who, if you're talking about, as the theme goes on social justice for all, how do we ensure that we achieve this? As you've said, we are not there because you also still receive cases of children who are actually being rescued from those situations where they've been denied their rights or rights to education and other fundamental rights. And so as partners, how are we responding? Maybe I could start with you, Ruth, since you have that, and then you can take it to
yes.
direction. Yes.
Thank you so much. Trade union movement that organizes workers in the country. And if we look at what we are discussing here, children, we are concentrating on domestic work and migrant domestic often victims. And locally, the issues around engaging children is something that we are also picking up for discussions because looking at our membership trade union movement, where we are directly engaging with domestic workers who are working in households, you realize child exploitation is also rampant within homes, not necessarily within working environments where they are.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you. Where they are. For instance, you find that we are engaging a child, and we know very well that a child has their rights. And as a child, we are also expecting them to just allow them develop as children so that they do not miss out their developmental stages. But in instances whereby you find that a child is being engaged in work, And as my sister from the government was saying, they are denied their rights to, to even develop as children. They are not given time to go out and play with other children. And, when they're engaged on labor, they're exploited because they do not know that, at this point, someone is using me as a child in return or in exchange of other favors. Someone wants me to work for them, and in exchange, they are giving me food. In exchange, there are also those that are providing shelter. There are also those that are engaging children, and in exchange, they are giving them clothes. Yeah, as a child grows up, they cannot distinguish what is rightfully there and what is just being offered as an appreciation. So you find that as we even engage domestic work, something comes out clearly that in child domestic work through our membership, some, with the circumstances around life, there are some other issues beside poverty that put children at risk of, wanting to get into employment. For instance, yesterday we had an interaction with domestic workers, and one was saying that you may find that a parent might get an accident and they can no longer work to feed the family. And in such a scenario, then they'll have to release their children to go work so that they get something to take care of the family. There are other instances whereby you find that parents are also ignorant. They don't want to take up their responsibilities as parents, and they want to expose their children into employment at an early age without even ensuring that the children are protected. In that, for them, it's all about what are you bringing at home. And these are instances that, like, how are you even releasing that child to the other person? Are you just giving them because you want money out of that engagement, or you're rather releasing them because you've assented as a parent, you've given consent for the other person to engage your child? So you find that all these vulnerabilities are exposing the children into exploitation. And also you find that even as they are being exploited, there are also levels of engaging the child whereby issues around safety is not taken into consideration. What are we exposing them also to, chemicals that will end up harming them? Like, we are in Dandora, and I know there's a dump site around here. So you find that we may have also parents who see an opportunity in collecting litter, scrap metals, and selling them to other households or other entrepreneurs. But again, as we even have children engaged into this, are we exposing them to the risks that come up as a result of picking up the litter? So you find that they don't want to take it up, and they don't see it as a exploitation, because it is just a way of work. We've also seen through the domestic sector where you also have a parent tagging along their children to go and help them with work in employers' residences. Like, for instance, you find that a parent has a lot of clothes to wash, or they want also, as we talk about high cost of living, we also have scenarios whereby the wages that a parent is being given is way too low, and they want an extra income out of it. So when an employer asks for employment, then the best person so that we get hold of all this is my child. So a parent will tag along their children to go and help. This is not about gender, because there are roles that are not gender specific, like, gardening in a compound, washing vehicles in a household, washing pets and looking after pets, taking them out for a walk. And the mother now goes inside the house to do the laundry and cleaning aspect of it. So by extension, they tag their children to go and help them to work around that compound. And in the end, you find that even with negotiation, all this will go back to the family. So we are looking at the component of, is the work even secure to the child? Are they given better, gears that they can protect themselves as children? And are we also forcing them to go work because we want extra income, or we are having a negotiation with them to also make them learn that if they are coming to work, then these are the restrictions and how far we can take this employment. So I'll say that these cases are there in the communities, and it starts right from our homes before we even look at the other party that is offering this employment to children. So part of what we are doing in intervention is to educate communities on, differences around child work, child labor, child domestic work. Where do we draw the line on how far we can engage children, and what is hazardous to the children that will harm the child and will also deny them their rights as children. So at this level, we are reaching out to communities in Kibera, in Kawangware. Soon we will be coming to Mathare. We are also going to Kamkunji, we are going to South B. We are targeting informal settlements where we have majority of domestic workers stay, so that we can begin conversations on how children are engaged in domestic work. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Maybe you can pass it to...
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity and for Maono having us here. And just to add on what she has said, we have children, and children are everywhere, and sometimes we don't realize that children are going through a lot of physical and emotional and all those abuses around them, and especially when it comes to child labor. So for me, I work around prevention and response when it comes to children who are in crisis, and children who are going through a lot of abuses, especially children who are going through labor and being exploited, probably sexually, and that's causing them emotional and physical harm. So, like when we say that we as stakeholders, before even we came to this panel, I was talking to Madam Government, Children Officer, and we were talking about cases that sometimes we have, and maybe the channels that we use even in reporting cases when we come across a child who is going through child labor, and it becomes so difficult when we don't work as a team and we have a good referral pathway. We fail to give the child the care or the protection that they need, because people work on different bits of issues, and then we avoid or we omit some of the issues. In let's say in our slum areas, sometimes we have normalized a lot of work around children, and sometimes we think that children have to do this work. Like, let's say even just fetching water from the taps to the houses, and people will think that because you are a child, this is your work. You need to fetch water, you need to bring water in. And sometimes the child carries a lot of those big jerrycans and brings water, probably the whole day. And people will just overlook that because they think that the child is just carrying water, and it's normal for children to carry water. So some of the child in labor issues are so invisible to our own eyes. We don't really see them. We assume that the children are supposed to be doing what they're doing. And also, when it comes to response, you find that like a long time ago, culturally, the child belonged to everyone in the society. So even if you point out that child is going through labor or abuse, you could tell someone and the whole community could come together. But nowadays, when it comes to response, it's like your child is your child and my child is my child. And when it comes that way, sometimes we see children who are being abused outside here, who are doing domestic work, who are being beaten in that work, who are going through a lot. And because they are not our children, we assume that someone else will come and take care of that. So I think most of us Kenyans, we just become those bad bystanders. We just look and see things are happening, and they're happening worse to children, and we don't talk about them. So on this day, I think we observe this day probably once a year, and every day, every minute, a child is going through a lot of issues outside there. I think this conversation should be a conversation that is running here and there, so that every time we speak and we talk about what children are going through, like creating the awareness every time here and there. And just talking about awareness, you find that most of the time when we create awareness as a country, it becomes like, awareness comes, we talk about something, and then all of a sudden we start saying, we have really done a lot of awareness. Now we really need to do something else. But I think it's very much good to do continuous awareness and just tell the public that we should be looking out for children, and especially for those children who are going through abuse in our houses, in our neighbors' houses, in schools, in companies, in shops, and because people nowadays are looking for cheap labor, they don't want to pay people, they're going to look for these children to come and work for them. And because our families, we are like, most of the families are hopeless when it comes to slums areas. It's easy for a parent also just to give out their child, knowing very well that I'm not giving my child out to be given like normal working hours at work or light work that belongs to a child, but because I'm giving out to my child to go and bring money in the family. So I think it's really important also to look at issues that children sometimes are supposed to be children and really not people to bring income to our families. Yes.
Morning all. Charles from Kana family. Thank you so much, Ruth and Maono, for hosting us to talk about issues affecting children who are in domestic work and the kind of abuses they are going through. For us as an organization, working with children who are being exploited either in labor or sex work, we've come to realize that the children are going through a lot, and more especially because most parents have neglected their responsibilities. And you'll find that a parent wouldn't want to know where is my child because of maybe the economic situation that they are going through. Like, for example, when you leave in the morning, you come back late in the evening, a child has been sent away to maybe go back home, go look for school fees. And because the parent is not at home, the child engages in labor. And those engaging these children in labor are taking advantage of that and exploiting the children, so that the children are working for longer hours, and they are doing work that is not supposed to be done by children, because these children also want to supplement part of what their parents are earning so that they can support themselves and maybe support part of the levies that they are required to go to school with. And the other thing is that while the children are also working, they are also being abused in some of their houses. For example, a parent would give out a child to go and work, for example, for a relative or someone they know, because they'll earn something from that. But these children are made to work up to late, for example, 11 in the night. They don't get enough time to sleep. In the morning, they have to wake up very early, prepare the other children to go to school. So you can imagine the kind of psychological trauma in these children, because they are seeing other children going to school, but then they are left behind at home to take care of these children's need, maybe wash their clothes and do all that. But nobody is thinking about what about this child, what is going on through in the head of this particular child as they remain here working in the house. The other thing that we've also realized is that some of the children are also being used in clubs, that is places that alcohol is being sold. They're the ones serving customers. And while they're serving this particular customer, somebody who is drunk would not look at a child as a child. They'll only be looking at, like, for example, it's a girl child. They'll be looking at this as an opportunity for me to get cheap sex. So some of these children are being abused sexually because of the environment where they are working. So these are some of the challenges we are encountering. And the other challenge while we are working on these particular issues is around, like, for example, a child is working, and when you want to, for example, intervene, you find that the parent and the person who has taken up the child as a child labor or a domestic worker are already in cahoots. They are working together. So even if you push this case, for example, to the police to maybe assist you in rescuing this child, because we are doing a lot of rescues as an organization, you find that they'll team up and also team up with the police, so that as you try as much as to try and rescue this child, you'll find obstacles in your way, so that